every being in physical form on this planet is going to experience a death experience of the physical form. There is no escaping that. And so, if that is a guaranteed end to this physical life, then I want people to know there's nothing to be afraid of. It doesn't mean hasten your death either. So I'm not saying, oh, quickly go into the spirit realm. No, because we are here for a reason. Many of us do know the reason why we are here. Many of us do know our purpose, and some people are still searching for their purpose. But I do believe, and this has been said by philosophers for countless eons, is that one of the underlying biggest wounds in the human psyche is the existential angst. What is life? Why are we here? What happens after death?
I'm very happy to be here today with Chenée Fournier. Chenée, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well. So thank you for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. You've had a lifetime of spiritual experiences and beautiful gifts. Tell me how this all got started for you.
Way back when I was a child, I can't even remember the first time that it happened, since it's just kind of happened off and on throughout my life. I've been able to perceive beings in spirit. That started out with a being standing in the hallway of my door. I was in my bedroom. I couldn't get my words out. I was in my bedroom sleeping. I opened up my eyes and looked out in the hallway and saw a being standing there just looking at me. It didn't scare me. I did become aware that they were a being in spirit because I could see through them. So I could see the hallway door behind them, the door handle behind them, but just as clearly as that, I could see what they were wearing. I could see how they were dressed, and they were just watching me. So I didn't know it then. What I know now is that was probably one of my guardian angels just letting me see them, and then me becoming aware, oh, okay, well, there are these other beings in other dimensions that I could perceive. Like I said, when I was a child, I didn't have that wording for it. I know it didn't scare me. I just probably thought it was completely normal that everyone was able to do this. So throughout the course of my life, that stuck with me. I've had lots of interactions with beautiful angelic beings. And I've also had plenty of experiences in life where there's no other explanation other than an angel influenced somebody else's behavior to help me stay alive, to stay well. I've had a number of experiences where people just kind of showed up at the perfect moment to help me out of sticky situations. Um, Also, way back in childhood, my mom would sometimes open my door and look in to see who I was talking to. And she probably just thought I was talking in my sleep. And that's probably what I would have thought was going on back then as well. But in retrospect now, I realize I was most likely speaking to beings in spirit. So, yeah, this is just something that's just been a part of my personality and a part of who I am since I was a child.
When did you realize that maybe you were a little bit different, that not everybody was seeing the world in the same way?
Oh my goodness, that is really hard to suss out and try to figure out exactly when that was. That might have been much later on in life in my teenage years. And I'm not even sure that it ever really completely sunk in that I was different from anybody else. I think what it is that I'm just able to stay tapped into and tuned into the realm of spirit while simultaneously being tapped into and tuned into the physical world. So I maybe, goodness, maybe even late teens, early 20s, when I would share stories with other people about what I experienced, what I could see, the beings that I interact with. Some people, they seem interested and they want to learn more. And some people just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I don't really want to talk about that because maybe it scared them or something. So I realized, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't just like, the conversation to just have with anybody. So, like with anything in life, I've learned discernment. I've learned, well, who is it that would be open to hearing about this? And who is it that wouldn't be open to it? And then throughout the course of just following my muse, so to say, following my angel's guidance, I learned about lots of different spiritual paths, lots of different religious traditions, have gone on a number of different retreats, always having really beautiful things happen during those retreats where I experienced a sense of timelessness. And that's really beautiful when you can get into that liminal space of you're not even aware of the passage of time because you're just so entranced with and in love with what you're doing. And so I just sort of realized, okay, well, if this is really my path and really my calling, what can I do to get better at this? So over the course of time, I've actually learned that I have a bunch of different clairs. I have clairaudience, clairalience, so I can actually smell things in spirit. I have clairvoyance, I have claircognizance, and I have clairsentience. And I know that my mom has at least two of those. She has clairvoyance and clairaudience as well. So I think it really is beautiful when people will reach out to me to say, oh my goodness, I've had these sorts of experiences too. And I can really normalize that for them. Because for some people, they know very young that they can do this. And for some people, for whatever reason, it got muted a bit, or they completely turned away from it, or it just wasn't something they ever honed in on. And then they come back around to it later on in life and they think, oh, okay, so this actually has a name. So if I can see things, that's clairvoyance. If I can hear things, that's clairaudience. And there's two different clairaudiences. You can hear something outside of you as though a voice has been spoken, or you can hear things internally in somebody else's voice oftentimes. So anyway, it's really lovely to be able to normalize this for people, because for some people, we've grown up in a culture where it's either very much embraced or it's like, oh no, yeah, we don't talk about that. That's scary kind of a stuff. And it really isn't scary, and it is completely normal. So I really love being able to normalize this for people. And so many years ago, I think it was back in 2010, I started my own wellness arts practice and started doing Reiki and energy healing with people. And I would recognize, wow, I am not doing this work alone. My spirit guides are here with me. My guardian angels are here. My soul self, which some people refer to as the higher self, they're all right here with me doing this work. And then I would start noticing messages would want to come through for the people that I was working with. So then I would have to balance that out and think, okay, well, which one of these beings, or which one of the clients that I'm working with, which one of them would actually be open to this sort of energy and these sorts of messages, and which wouldn't. And so one of the examples that I have is that someone had reached out to me and said she would like a mediumship reading. And then she said she wanted to start with energy healing. So while I was doing the energy healing with her, a message started coming through for her son. And since she had already said she would like to have a mediumship reading, I brought a message through, but I could tell she kind of stiffened up a little bit and she didn't seem completely open to it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll shut that part off because I don't think she's comfortable with this. So, later on after the session ended and I was doing a check-in with her, she said, yes, the message that I brought through was really obvious and really clear and really evidential, but that she didn't feel comfortable with mediumship because her church had told her that that wasn't okay to go to a medium. So the reason why I find it so important to normalize this for people is to let them know there is nothing to be afraid of in the realm of spirit. There is nothing that's going to hurt you once we're no longer in physical form. We don't have these behaviors like greed or being overly self-protective or hurting others. So it really hurts my heart that there can be certain religious groups out there or certain belief systems out there that scare people, because many more people would actually open up to their ability to interact with spirit if they weren't afraid of it. So I think I really veered off of your question, but that's kind of what wanted to come through.
No, I love it. I love the fact that you're concerned about people's fear over this, because that can be so helpful. I know I lost my husband, and it was, people like you, stories like near death experiences, all those things coming together to show me that we're eternal spiritual beings and that my husband wasn't missing. He didn't evaporate into oblivion. So the work that you do is really important, and I love that you're trying to dispel that fear. So tell me, in your opinion, why your work is important and the types of messages that you can receive to help others.
I think the work that I do and that others like me do, the reason why it's so important is because every being in physical form on this planet is going to experience a death experience of the physical form. There is no escaping that. And so, if that is a guaranteed end to this physical life, then I want people to know there's nothing to be afraid of. It doesn't mean hasten your death either. So I'm not saying, oh, quickly go into the spirit realm. No, because we are here for a reason. Many of us do know the reason why we are here. Many of us do know our purpose, and some people are still searching for their purpose. But I do believe, and this has been said by philosophers for countless eons, is that one of the underlying biggest wounds in the human psyche is the existential angst. What is life? Why are we here? What happens after death? I believe that a lot of people, when they self-medicate by whatever means that looks like for them, ultimately, I think underneath it all is that kind of original wound of what does this all mean? Where are we going? What's going to happen after this life is finished? For a lot of people, that's a deep, deep fear. And so, what I've noticed is that oftentimes, since people don't want to really think about those kinds of things, they'll do all sorts of things to distract themselves. When the reality of it is, there's no reason to distract yourself from it. You don't have to sit there and ruminate on it. But if you can realize, wow, we're all going the same direction. We're all, working our way through this beautiful life, having whatever life experience we're having. At some point, we're going to have a physical death experience, but that's nothing to fear. And that what comes next is ultimately really beautiful. This lifespan isn't necessarily all that long in the scope of the spiritual lifespan. So a physical lifespan is not that long. The spiritual lifespan is what I like to call timelessness. And the reason why I prefer timelessness over eternal is because even when I was a child, I don't even know how old I was, definitely elementary school age, the word eternity used to scare me. I would sit there and I would think, wow, eternal, that's a really long time. So whether you're eternally happy or eternally unhappy, that's a really long time. And I would kind of freak my own self out trying to think about eternity. And as a little kid, that's a really big question to grapple with. Even as an adult, that can be a big question to grapple with. So I actually really prefer the terminology timelessness. So I just really want to get the message through to people that we are timeless beings. We will take whatever form we would like to take once we're in the realm of spirit. We can crystallize into what appears like a form. If we would like to take one in the spirit realm, we don't have to. If we liked certain parts of our personality and we want to carry that over into the spirit realm once we're no longer here physically, we can. If we want to experience something different, we can. But the ultimate reality for me is that there is nothing but source energy. There is nothing but love. There is nothing but peace and joy especially once we're beyond this physical form. It's here right now as well, but especially once we're beyond this physical form, we're going to recognize that there is nothing to fear and that a lot of time is wasted thinking about what we're afraid of. I can't remember who said it, but there's something about oftentimes what you're afraid of never even comes to pass anyway. So, stop being afraid of so much and try to live with joy. Just sort of live your purpose, live your life, live knowing that love is all around us. So that's just one of the big messages. Another really big message that always comes through beings in spirit is that if we could see ourselves the way that they in spirit see us, we would fall in love with ourselves. And if we fell in love with ourselves and we had a really healthy self-esteem, we would do so much less harm in this world because we wouldn't be operating out of fear or out of lack or out of greed. Also, what I try to make sure and bring through, and this has been shown to be many times, the larger part of ourselves is actually already in spirit. So that's what I refer to as the soul self. For some people, they call it the higher self. But the larger part of me, you, everyone, including animals, not just humans, we're still in spirit. We never even left the realm of spirit. However, there's a physical form that needs a soul, needs an essence, needs the life force energy to flow through it. So a soul, a spirit, whichever terms resonate with people, will actually focus on this physical form for each one of us. So what I've been shown is that we have the human form or the animal form, because it's for animals as well. We have this beautiful physical form, and our soul will put part of its focus and part of its essence and energy into this physical form, always surrounding us. So I don't know if you know that shape called the torus field, but it's always flowing into and into and out of something. So each one of us is our own ecosystem. We have a physical form and the physical needs that go with it. And then we have a spirit body, a light body, a soul, a spirit. Any words are fine that work there for each person. But this energy is flowing to us from the larger part of us, the larger part of ourselves that are still in spirit, flowing into us through our crown, oftentimes down into the earth below, back up into the heavens above, down. So it's just this constant inflow and outflow of our spirit energy, our life force energy, always guided by our spirit, always guided by our soul. So if we can recognize that we are simultaneously in two places, we're in the spirit realm and we're also here, that lets us know that we are divine, we are sacred, we are holy. And if we can learn to hear our own intuition, we can learn to tap into our own intuition and to differentiate when is that our intuition, or when is that our intuition coming through, and when is it fear or preference. Sometimes preference and fear can kind of be louder than our intuition. But once we get really practiced at listening to our intuition, it gets easier to hear it, to discern it, and to actually heed the guidance that comes through. Another message that comes through frequently is all is forgiven. So each of us, we go through our life and we make decisions that we recognize that wasn't the most enlightened decision to make. That wasn't the most kind thing to do. For some people, those are very big things. And for some people, just kind of little things throughout life. So I think a lot of people, as they make their way towards, a physical death, whether they know it or not, and they know that they're making their way towards that or not, some people have a fear. They have a fear that they're going to be judged. They have a fear that, oh my goodness, they're going to go to hell. I don't believe in a hell. I have never, ever, ever been shown that there is a hell. In fact, I've been shown the opposite. There is only grace. There is only light. There is only love. There is only, source energy, God. Like I said, I try not to get hung up on words, and there's no dogma with the words that I use. But really, the only ones that are going to judge us are ourselves. So we will have what's called a life review. During that time, we're going to see the beauty that we brought into this world, and we're going to see any sadness and suffering that we caused. But in doing that, we're able to sort of clear that out of our energy field. We're going to understand why we did those things, and we're going to understand why people did things to us that were hurtful. And then we're also going to get it all wrapped up with this beautiful understanding of why the things happened for us and to us and through us that represented love. Just getting to remind us we are very powerful co-creators. I think if people realized how powerful of a co-creator they could be, they would be so much more excited about life, and also a lot more discerning about what sort of things they allow to come into their awareness and what sorts of things they put their time into thinking about. Another big message that comes through beings in spirit is that we are surrounded by so much light and we emit so much light that for them, they see this, the analogy that I came up with a while ago is we look like a pointillism painting made of light. So in the pointillism paintings, you get up close, you can see these individual points of paint. Back far, it looks like one unified field of a beautiful artwork. And so that's what I've been shown we look like from spirit, is this gorgeous tapestry, if you will, or this gorgeous stage where all of these individual points of light are moving around. Not only do we represent a point of light, but we are comprised of countless points of light. We have what's called biophotons in our physical body. We actually emit light. So for me, one of the things that's really important every morning is to wake up, do a gratitude list, thank my angels, my guides, my soul self, all the beings who are going to go through my day with me, and just think, all right, let me be a vessel for divine light. Let me be a channel for divine love. And I always just kind of like rub my hands together like a little kid and say, okay, all of my beautiful loved ones in light, let's co-create the most beautiful day yet. So that's a very important message to get through too, is that since we are co-creators, we can have a say in how our life goes. So I know a lot of people have a little bit of fear right now with various things going on. People feel like a lot of chaos is going on in the world. So what I always really, really, really try to emphasize with people is, even though there's chaos going on in the world, there's also order going on in the world. Even though things in certain areas and in certain places of life feel like things are really falling apart, there are so many beings helping to pick the light, helping to pick up things and put them back together, and not only put them back together, but lead to something new. So I think that we're in a time where we're all being invited to be alchemists. We're all being invited to transform anything that seems hateful into loving, loving kindness. Anything that can create fear, to transform that into comfort. Anything that seems, just out of place and exclusive, to transform that into inclusivity. I really do see that more beautiful world happening. I see it being cultivated. Sometimes that saying, like that saying goes, it's darkest before the dawn. Sometimes there's a lot of chaos before, oh my goodness, all this order takes place. And one of the things I learned through various books that I've read is that even in the most chaotic environment, there is order. You can't actually have anywhere where there is a complete lack of order. So even in chaos, there is order. So really, I just try to help people see that there really isn't as much to be afraid of as our media would make us think that there is. And that helps us then move through this world in a way to bring more light, to bring more energy that is positive and loving and beneficial. And I also love the concept, and I'm not sure if it's a concept from physics, but it doesn't take that much energy to create coherence. It takes way more energy to create discombobulation and to create the chaos. So if all of us feel that, any of us that feel that it's important to try to help this world be more orderly, to be more beautiful, to ascend, if we can just focus on keeping ourselves feeling centered and feeling balanced and feeling hopeful and shining our own light brightly, then that actually finds all of the other streams of light that are being sent out by other people. So what I've also been shown is this beautiful grid of light that surrounds this planet. And beings of light and beings in spirit are working in unison with us here in this physical realm that are here physically to create just this gorgeous aura of safety around this beautiful planet, to not only radiate blessings and safe havens out into the beautiful cosmos, but into this planet as well. So also, when you recognize that we're not doing this alone, it's not just up to us, those that are here physically, because the larger part of ourselves are in spirit, and because there are all of these other beautiful non-physical beings that are keeping an eye on this planet and that are helping each and every being here, because this whole planet is meaningful. Every molecule of water, every particle of light, every animal, all of the elements, all species, it's all important. So every single thing that is here is a being of light. And if we can remember that we are a being of light and that we came here to share our light and to spread the light, then we all sort of knit together, and then we contribute the light into these grids of light that are surrounding us. Oftentimes lately, as I'm walking around in public, I will just recognize so much light shining into each person. And I just stand there momentarily. And sometimes I might pick up something to make it look like I'm reading something. So people aren't wondering, why am I standing in a store completely still? But I'll have something in my hand and I'll just very quickly just acknowledge all of these other beings of light. They're in this store with me, physically as well as non-physically, and just radiate light and love into each person. And I can actually feel and see love radiating back from them. So that's what I love too, is that even if we're not focused on, well, I'm going to shine light today, because we are beings of light, we sort of can't help but shine light. So to me, it's very, very hopeful. And what I encourage people to do if they feel fearful because of the media, because we have 24/7 media now. And so if they're feeling very kind of overwhelmed, discombobulated, worried, just sit there and realize there are way more people on this planet, both physically and non-physically, that want love, that want equality, that want inclusivity, than want the other. So the light will win, love will win, goodness will win, goodness will prevail. And I don't mean that as a Pollyanna way. I've also, I used to work for nonprofits that were advocating for rights for Tibetans. So I've read cases of torture. I've, also used to work for a nonprofit they were providing lawyers for foster youth. So I've also read horrible stories about the way that children have been treated. So I don't go through this life not knowing of the ugly side. I know that, yes, sometimes there can be really, really horrible behaviors, but I also know that there is way more light in this world, way more love in this world, and way more loving behaviors than hurtful, harmful behaviors. Our media just doesn't highlight that.
There's so much in there that I want to talk about. All such beautiful messages, by the way. And this grid of light is the first thing I want to start with because I've been hearing about this a lot lately and it's new to me. Some people say, that it is helping to dispel the darkness. Some people say, they don't know what it is. Maybe it's half artificial intelligence, half natural. What is this grid of light that is surrounding the earth and what is it doing?
Okay, so I believe that it is 100% natural. So I believe that this light is actually our essence. So even though we are in physical form, we're still bodies of energy, just slowed down enough to appear physical. One of the really cool things that I recently learned was even the fact that I'm sitting on this chair, it appears to me like I'm sitting on this chair. It appears to me like the chair is solid and that my body is solid. But actually, my body is not touching the chair. The chair's energy is coming up to meet my body's energy. And there is this, and I'm not even using the proper words because I'm not a scientist, so I don't know the proper words. But when I read it, I was so excited about learning this, is that everything is energy, everything is interacting with everything else energetically, but yet we're not necessarily in these physical forms commingling, which is good because I wouldn't want, if I'm having a bad day, I wouldn't want that to affect others. If somebody else is having a bad day, I wouldn't want that to affect my energy. So what I think that this light is it's an example to us of what we are. We are beings of light. The light is pure love. And I guess I should clarify too, so on a metaphysical level, I don't believe that there is light and dark, good and bad. There isn't that duality. There isn't that polarity. So when I say the light will prevail and good will prevail, I don't believe that there are any dark forces. I don't believe that darkness is this negative entity because I don't believe in negative entities. I don't believe in evil. I actually believe that truly there is only God. There is only good. There is only source energy. There is only love. And when we get into these physical forms, we can sometimes forget that. And then people can behave in ways that seem hurtful or selfish or just really terrible. So I believe that the light is our essence. It's what we came from. It's what we will return to. That's a spirit world. It's a spirit realm. That doesn't mean that we cease to exist once we leave. It's not like we just become light and that's it. But I think what we do is we become beings of light once again. I forget which spiritual teacher said this, and I have not been able to find this on the internet anywhere, but someone said, we are in this physical realm, we are carbon-based light forms that are working our ways toward being light-based life forms, someday never needing this physical form, never needing to take care of a body or feed a body or to clean a body. We won't have to be that. And that really resonated with me. And I really wish I could figure out who was the first one to say that, who that thought came through. But as soon as I heard it, I got the whole just body shimmers of like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. So I believe that we are beings of light. We can crystallize, even in the spirit realm. I believe that we can crystallize into a unified field called a form if we would like to. We don't have to if we don't want to. So to me, the light is love. The light is source energy. The light is sacred life force energy. And I believe that the reason why It envelops this planet the way that it does and flows throughout it. So not only is it a grid that surrounds this planet, but as I look out right now in the space in front of me, I can just see streams of light going everywhere. Some of them look kind of straight, some of them look spiral, some of them take different, just beautiful forms. And to me, it represents that all of life is always in motion. It's always playing. It's always having fun. It's always having experiences. So by this light being here and coming through all of the atmosphere, and also like scaffoldings of light are around you, they're around me, they're around my dogs, they're around my houseplants. What I was also shown not that long ago, every molecule of water has light in it and has a scaffolding of light around it, like a grid of light. Every photon, every particle of light, everything is comprised of light. So I think for me, the light being here now is to just remind us who we are, what we're capable of, and that as long as we radiate our light, we can help enlighten this world. That's why when I work with people, work with clients, especially doing the mentorship, I try to remind them, you know what? We're already enlightened. We are beings of light. So we are embodied soul. We are ensouled bodies. And because we are beings of light, we're already enlightened. We just need to remember this. So for me, the light just truly represents our homecoming. It represents our DNA blueprint. It represents our spirit bodies. It represents this lightness of being. So I'm sure you've probably heard that where people will say, well, envelop yourself in a protective bubble. What I like to teach the people that I work with to do is, you don't need a protective bubble. All you need to do is radiate your light and shine your light out beyond you so vibrantly and so luminously that really only that which you resonate is going to find you. And I know people who know music theory will know what this is called, but if you're in a room full of guitars and you pluck a string, like a C note, the C notes on a lot of the guitars around this one guitar that you plucked will start resonating, start making a sound. My sound bowl is the same. Something in the room made a loud noise the other day, and it was the perfect tone, and my singing bowl started singing, and I hadn't touched my singing bowl. So that's what I'd like to let people know, is that what you send out, what your resonance is what you're going to draw back to you and is what you're going to awaken around you. So each one of us has the ability to radiate so much light that not only do we find the light that we resonate with, but we encourage those around us to shine their light even brighter. And I love that, because then that means that I'm not doing this alone. Not only do I have the beings in spirit doing this with me, but other physical beings right here on this planet, they're shining their light so brightly that it then calls me to shine my light even brighter. And I love that. And as I'm talking, my head is tingling. And that's always a sign for me that spirit is like putting an exclamation point on what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question,
No, I
but
love that so much because I feel like there is a shift happening in the world. And it's like maybe like what you said, is that how it's working where one person becomes enlightened or, their frequency rises and then so they affect the ones around them and then they affect the others around them. And it's just like a wave of change. And is that why you came here now to be a part of this with your frequency?
I believe so, because I think, and I also want to clarify, I believe that whenever anyone does something with love, they're living their purpose, right? So I'm not a parent, but I think that parents that raise their children really well, oh my goodness, they are really helping this earth to ascend. A good teacher, a good sanitation worker, a good, fill in the blank. Anyone who is doing anything in this world and doing it with love and doing it with kindness, they're helping this earth to ascend. For me, like I was mentioning earlier, I spent many years in the nonprofit world, and I just kind of at a certain point just didn't quite resonate with that work anymore. And I found my way to energy healing, and that really opened up my clairs and reminded me just how fluent I am with my clairs and with the language of light. And it was really interesting. One day, early on, after I started doing energy work and started interacting with people just energetically, I looked in the mirror and I kid you not, I recognized myself for the first time. And I was never someone who felt outside of my body. I never felt like, oh my goodness, who am I? Where am I going? But I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh, there you are. And I just had this homecoming, this recognition of, okay, you finally found your right path. And now that I'm saying that, my whole body is like shimmering and tingling. I just felt like, oh, look at that. You finally found your main calling. So I think throughout life, we can have different things that call to us. And as long as we do it with love and care, and we really truly want to make a difference in this world, we are living our calling. So it's not like you come into this world with one calling. But I do believe underneath it all, when you really distill everything down, there is something that each one of us is really good at. And I believe that I finally found, years ago, finally found the thing that I'm good at, which is merging the spirit realm and the physical realm in a way to truly help others find their way, find their path, come back to themselves, to help other people recognize you are a being of light. You are sacred, you are holy, you are divine, and no time is ever wasted. Even if someone doesn't find that until their last week of life, it wasn't time wasted. It was just a journey to get there. So I do believe that all of us that are doing good work in this world, however that takes place and however that looks like for each person, we are truly helping this world ascend. As this planet ascends, we ascend. As we ascend, the planet ascends. So it's like that leapfrog thing, right? Like we all ascend together. And the image that comes through right now is like when you have things bobbing along on the water. And as the water rises, those things bobbing along on the water rise too. And so I just love that concept that no matter what it looks like externally right now, things are getting better. Things are going in the right direction. One of the messages that comes through is just really let go of fear. Just really embrace the fact that it is getting better. It is going to continue to get better. And there's that tipping point where at a certain point, things will get better even faster. And I do believe that they're already getting better faster. But if people are paying attention to the conventional regular media, they wouldn't know that. But when you interact with other people that are interacting with beings in spirit, doing spirit work, doing good work in this world, and seeing beautiful things transpire, it's really contagious in a good way of like, oh my goodness, that's happening. And look at that. And that's happening. It's just really exciting. I really just love being a part of this. And I love being aware that the work that I do in this world matters. I call it my sacred vocation. It is my soul's calling. And what I've mentioned before, plenty of people that I've talked to, I said, even if I won the lotto tomorrow and I never had to earn another dollar in my life, I would still keep doing this work because I love doing this work. This work really nourishes me. And I love meeting people like you. I love meeting the clients that I work with. And I love meeting all the beings in spirit. They have such a good sense of humor. They are hopeful, they are happy. And I think one of the reasons why I know there's nothing to be afraid of is because these beings in spirit that have a much bigger vantage point than I do here in my physical form, even tapping into my soul and my spirit and that larger part of myself that is in the spirit realm, it's still coming through my human filter. But the beings that communicate with me and get messages through, they're letting me know there is nothing to fear. Everything is going to work out fine. Truly, truly believe that, have faith in that. And if we can drop that fear, it helps us be more powerful. It helps us work in this world in ways that really make a positive difference. And the other thing I like to tell people is no matter how small you think your action is, if it's beneficial, take it. Some people will say, does it really matter if I do a gratitude list? I say, yes, it really does matter to do a gratitude list because, and this I learned through Heart Math Institute. I love, love, love the Heart Math Institute. When we're doing a gratitude list and when we're actually envisioning things that we're grateful for, our heart and our brain get into coherence. And when we're in that state of coherence, we actually we're always emitting from our heart a field of energy that actually surrounds us and reaches out. I think they've measured between 3 to 6 feet. So when we can be in coherence and what we are emitting is joy and love, that actually raises the frequency of not only ourselves, the environment around us, every molecule of water, every particle of light. And when we're in environments, when we're interfacing with other people, it uplifts them as well. And then it calls from them an energy that's uplifting. And then it's just this beautiful feedback loop of uplifting each other. So I'm not sure what the original question was. I keep kind of getting off track because this information just keeps coming through and just wants to be spoken.
Yeah, we were talking about how, maybe you came to the planet to help
Oh, yeah.
during these times,
Yeah.
during this ascension. And I think you answered that question
Yeah.
beautifully.
Thank you.
And I just have to point out that when you said that if you won the lottery, you would keep doing what you were doing, I am not kidding. I had this exact conversation with someone an hour and a half ago that I would keep doing this podcast even if I won the lottery. I love what I do, and getting these messages and meeting amazing people like you is just my life's calling. And I want to go back to kind of like the evil. You said evil, you don't believe in evil, and evil doesn't really exist.
Mhm.
And I think some people get hung up on that, and they've just been, that's what they've believed their whole life, and it's hard to let go of that kind of programming and that belief. What would you tell those people, like maybe the archons or demons or what they call the darkness? Is that a symbolic representation of something?
I think for me, what that is that oftentimes when we believe that there's something to be afraid of, we every single what's that word, it colors what we see in the world. So if we believe there's something to be afraid of and something small happens, we blow that out of proportion. We give it energy when it doesn't need energy. And I'm going to kind of bring that through with an example, is that years ago when I was first starting to do the energy healing and just all these images were flooding through, I was at a healing arts conference. And so I was seeing, gosh, every 10 minutes there would be a new person on my massage table, because at that time I was doing hands on healing. So one of the guys that was on my table, I just started having all of these images coming through that were like multidimensional colors I have no names for. This beautiful Black Panther showed up. He stuck the Black Panther stuck his tongue out. There was a beautiful lotus on the end of the tongue. There was a beautiful jewel in the center of the lotus. All of these images were coming through. So at the end of the little 20-minute session, I was telling him all the beautiful images that came through, and his energy changed and he kind of stiffened up. And so that's not me picking up on that intuitively. That's me seeing physically in front of me, oh, this person is kind of tightened up with what I'm saying. So I wanted to delve into that. And so then this did come through intuitively. I said, oh, are you afraid of black cats? And he said, yes. I said, oh, okay. So I think it's really important that you found me. Out of all the practitioners at this healing arts fair, you and I were supposed to come upon each other's paths to help you dispel that fear of black cats, because this beautiful puma that came through was black. It was gorgeous and it was powerful. The message that came through clearly was, you are not to be afraid of black cats. The black cat is one of your spirit animals in the form of a black puma. And with that lotus blossom being on the cat's tongue, that represents, because lotuses will bloom in mud. And so through great hardships, even beauty is formed and can be created. And then in the center of that lotus was the diamond. The diamond is one of the hardest surfaces in the world, I believe. Just they'll make drill head bits out of diamonds. Like, it's a very strong element, a very strong thing. So I brought all these messages through, and as I was talking, I saw him soften. I saw him relax, because he actually had a little bit of a debilitating fear of black cats, to where if one crossed his path, the rest of his day was ruined. So I explained to him, I said, okay, well, if you see a black cat cross your path, now let's say a few feet up the sidewalk, you stub your toe and you trip, you're going to think, oh, the black cat caused that. No, you're being distracted by your fear of the black cat, is what kind of pulled your attention away from what you were doing, the walking, making sure not to trip, what have you. I said, so what I want you to do, this is an invitation for you, and I'm really encouraging you to embrace that, or this. The next time you see a black cat, I want you to just kind of rub your hands together and think, oh, yay, my spirit animal has made their appearance in a physical form to remind me they are right here with me. Because a black puma, oh my goodness, what a very powerful spirit animal. And so I really truly could tell by his change of energy that just that interaction with me was able to remove one of his fears. And without a doubt, I know for a fact that the next time he saw a black cat, it didn't cause him fear. Instead, he embraced the reality that that's one of his spirit animals. So the reason why I use that story is because we empower what we believe. If we believe that there is something to be fearful of, that doesn't mean that we're going to create evil. But what it means is anytime anything happens, the person who thinks that there's something to be afraid of, they're going to empower that belief. So if I'm walking down the street with a friend and we see the same thing, if the friend is really fearful, well, they're going to think, oh my goodness, and they're going to bring all kinds of fear up. And I'm going to see that storyline in a whole different manner. And I'm going to start looking for, oh, well, what does that mean? What does that represent? What beauty can I pull from that? And I know, we're in this Western world, many of us were brought up with a belief of an original sin. If you're from more of an Eastern part of the world, maybe you're brought up with a belief in negative karma. There's all these beliefs that from the moment we're born, even if we didn't grow up in a religious family, it's this overarching sort of belief of the culture that surrounds us. So it's very easy to have a negativity bias. And in fact, I believe it's been shown that the human brain, for countless eons, has had a negativity bias, because that's one way that we were able to stay alive when things were even much more raucous than they are now. And so what I just try to encourage people to recognize is there is no actual entity of evil. There is no force of evil. There is only good. There is only light. But not all of us who come into this world are able to use this energy in a way that is truly beneficial. I have no idea why, what happens in each person's life when people make a decision to not do good in this world. But things that happen in this world that are not beneficial, that aren't positive, that aren't loving, those are perpetrated by people, by humans, not by the unseen world, not by energy. So that's what I point out to people. It's like the electricity flowing into my wall. It doesn't mean me harm, but if I poke a fork into an outlet, I'm going to be harmed by that. If I go touching a live wire, I'm going to be harmed by that. That's not evil. It's not negative. But what it is I have not respected an energy that's flowing around me. So I think the majority of the people of the world are using the energy that's all around us, the life force energy, to live a good life and to hopefully help others live a good life and to be kind and caring. But unfortunately, there can be the people of this world that don't use this life force energy that is free flowing for all of us to use. They're not using it in a good way. But once again, I think the media overplays that part and underplays the goodness that's going on in this world. And this is information that's flowed through my spirit to me, through my soul to me, through other beings in spirit. I have never, ever, ever had any beings in spirit tell me there's something to be afraid of. And one of the stories that I've shared previously is that years ago, I lived behind a big house. I was living in a very tiny little cottage behind a bigger house. The person who owned that house was out of town often. And so when they were out of town, I would sort of be a caretaker for the front house, make sure everything was fine. And I just kind of noticed there was an energy in the kitchen of that house that didn't feel comfortable to me, but I didn't know what it was. And this was many years ago. And so one time the owner of the house asked me to go in by phone because he was out of town, asked me to go get some paperwork out of the house. And I said, okay, but I don't want to go in the kitchen. It's already nighttime. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't really feel comfortable in the kitchen at nighttime in the house. And so he said, oh, didn't anyone ever tell you someone had died by suicide in the basement? And that basement is right below the kitchen. And I said, oh, no, I do wish that someone had told me that, because I would have understood then what that energy was. Once again, I don't believe that energy can get stuck places, but I do believe that an energetic essence, sort of a memory packet, can get left behind when something is very powerful, as a death by suicide took place. So what I did is I took a stick of incense, I went down in the basement, and I just walked some circles in the basement, just saying some prayers with the lit incense, just saying, there's nothing for you here in this house anymore. So please go to the light. Just go. You're free to go. Let all of your energy reintegrate with you back in spirit. There's just nothing for you here. Go. So then either that night or a couple of nights later, I was sleeping in my little tiny house in my loft, and I felt a heaviness of blankets pressed against me. And I knew that I was not experiencing sleep paralysis because I could look around, I could lift my body, but I felt this heaviness. Now, if I was a fearful person, I would have automatically been afraid. But instead, I said, oh, I know what this is. This being in spirit is giving me a hug and thanking me for releasing that last bit of the residual energy from the house. And so it was really cute because I actually spoke out loud, because I do speak out loud to beings in spirit. And I said, you're welcome. And when I said there was nothing more for you here and that you needed to go, that didn't mean that you were welcome to come hang out with me. You can't come hang out with me. I'm not your home. I'm not where you belong. Go to the light, go to spirit, go be integrated once again. And then as soon as I said that, the blankets lightened up and the energy changed in my room. Now, like I said a moment ago, if I were a fearful person, I would put a whole storyline to that about what I should be afraid of, but there was nothing to be afraid of. And instead, it just felt really good to help any sort of residual energy that was left behind reintegrate so that the being in spirit could once again, have all of their energy back with them. So that's what I just remind people. You're going to find what you believe in. If you believe that there's something to be afraid of, any little thing that happens, you're going to attach a storyline to it, and you're going to increase its, and I don't mean it as in though it's got an energy. I'm kind of trying to find my words. You're going to empower your belief in fear if you believe in fear. And what I always invite people to realize is, what's wrong with just changing your belief? If you change your belief and it makes your life worse, then change it back. But I have never had anyone tell me when they quit believing in fear or quit believing in evil that it made their life worse. No one's ever told me that. So, you can see life as this practice, right? We can practice what we want. We can practice what we want to believe in, and we can choose what we want to believe in, because what we believe in, we're going to give power and energy to. So believe in the light, believe in love, believe in goodness, and believe that that's what we're all being invited to walk into and to live from.
How do we know if it's our intuition or guidance versus our fear or our like inner chatter? How can we differentiate between those two?
Oftentimes, when it is just sort of inner chatter, it will be incessant. It will be urgent. It will be kind of discombobulating. And it will just feel, it can actually feel fearful, like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make the right decision? If we're listening to our intuition, even if the intuition is telling us something we don't want to hear, like we really wanted it to be telling us one thing and it's telling us something different, it's going to feel calm. There's going to be this sense of a knowing, like, okay, well, I know that's the right answer. And oftentimes when I've gone against my intuition and then gone back and checked in with myself, I'm like, yeah, I got to admit it. There was that moment when I knew that the decision, I was going to override my intuition and go with my preference. And it didn't go as well as it could have. And sometimes it went, really poorly. And so then what I learned was, okay, well, just get quiet, listen to that inner guidance. And then, does this inner guidance feel calming? Even if it's not what I want to hear, does it feel calming? Or does it feel urgent? Does it feel agitated? Does it feel like, oh my goodness, everything depends on this one decision? Very few things in this world depend on one decision. Sometimes they can, but not often. It's like if you're a surgeon, then yeah, you need to make a right decision, or it might not go well. But I think I've even heard surgeons say, speaking of surgeons now, I've even heard surgeons say that they went against a certain training because they listened to their intuition, and that surgery went well. And had they listened to a specific thing that they had been trained to do, it wouldn't have gone as well. So I think that once you start practicing tapping into your intuition and listening to it, it becomes louder. You become a lot more aware of this is what intuition feels like, and this is what the chattering mind feels like. One of the things I'll also invite people to do if they're trying to discern is I'll just have them just sit quietly, just kind of go in nature if they love nature. If they, wherever is their happy place, just try to make sure that they're there. If they can't, that's okay. Go into kind of a happy place internally. Just get really quiet and ask yourself, what is my intuition trying to say here? So you can write down the answer even. So you can ask yourself that 2 or 3 times. The intuition is always going to say the same thing. The preference is oftentimes going to say things different. Plus, if it's preference, your mind starts kicking in and starts talking you into it. If it's intuition, there's usually just this spaciousness around it. That's the only word I can think of. It's just this feeling of, oh, okay, yeah, that's what my intuition is saying. And then because we have free will, we can either listen to the intuition or we can ignore it and make a different decision. Once we figure out that ignoring the intuition oftentimes leads to things not going as well as they could, we start listening to the intuition more, and then our intuition gets louder. We become more fluent in our intuition.
And why do you think we come here in the first place to have this physical experience?
That one is a really big, big, big question. And I know each person is going to have a different answer. And what I love about that is that this universe, this creation, this world is big enough for all of our belief systems. So for some people, they probably come here to learn certain lessons. For some people, they probably come here to help uplift the planet. For some people, I honestly believe that because there are 8 billion people on this planet and every body needs a soul, needs a spirit, needs an essence, needs that divine spark. Sometimes I believe that source is just simply cleaving off a part of itself and then letting that become the soul or the spirit or the essence for the body. It counts for animals as well, in non-human animals, dogs, cats, the whole beautiful natural world. So I think for each person, they have to kind of sit quietly and find out for themselves, why did they come here? I think for each person, that can be completely different. I don't believe it's a one size fits all. And I do believe that underneath it all, we each come here out of love. That I think is the one essence that is the same for all of us that have chosen to be here. It's love. So whether it's love for wanting to uplift the planet, or love for wanting to experience life, love for allowing consciousness to experience itself, source to experience itself in creative form, I think underneath it all, it's love. And that's just, and not the interpersonal love that ebbs and flows and comes and goes, but that agape love, that love that is just so incredibly powerful that I can't even find the right words for it.
Chenee, this has been just a beautiful experience for me. If my viewers wanted to reach out to you, if they have questions for you, how can they find you?
I have a website, which is CheneeFournier.com. I also have a YouTube channel. They would just search out my name there as well. I don't really update that anymore. I don't like all the commercials, and I don't have any control over what kind of commercials gets played on my videos. But what I love about the YouTube channel is that all of those meditations that are on there are all channeled. So I'll just sit quietly. I won't use any kind of a script, and I'll just wait and see what words want to flow through me, flowing from spirit through me, creating sound waves that I then hold the intention that the sound waves be encoded with healing frequencies and imbued with love. So when people listen to those meditations, they're receiving an energy healing session. Whatever they need, the energy that's flowing through it will work for their highest good. So someone could even listen to the same meditation 7 different times and receive something different each time. I also have a meditation on there for people to tap into their loved ones in spirit, for tapping into their spirit guides and their guardian angels. So that's one way. I also have a very small presence on Instagram that I also don't tend to very much. And then I'm going to be speaking at the International Association for Near-Death Studies conference in Arizona in August. So if anyone would like to meet me in person, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be hosting a spoken word energy healing session. And then for 3 days of that conference, I'm going to be volunteering my time as a medium doing mediumship readings for loved ones in spirit, as well as tapping people into their angels and spirit guides and bringing through messages.
And if you had one message that you wanted the audience to take away from our chat today, what would it be?
I think it would be, you are love, you are loved, and you are loving. So truly live from that place of shining brightly and know that you are a luminous being. You are radiant. And if you could see yourselves, if we all could see ourselves the way that the beings in spirit could do see us, we would never, ever have anything but a healthy self esteem, a healthy confidence, and be in love with our own selves. The more that we love our own selves, the more that we're able to radiate and share love with others, because we can't give to others what we don't have for our own selves. So love ourselves, love others, and move through this world knowing that even just simply by being present, you can be a healing force in this world by embodying your light and shining it forth into this beautiful world.
That's a beautiful closing message. Thank you,
Thank you.
Chenee. This has been wonderful for me. You're such an inspiration and very uplifting.
Thank you so much, Tian. Thank you for your time. I loved this interaction, this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.